Welcome. It feels like we haven't been here in 6 bazillion years. So, in case you've forgotten who we are, this is Majority Rules. Season 1, Episode 16. This is a podcast about Mizzou Athletics majority, Olympic sports athletes. We have a very small group with us today. So this may, famous last words, actually be a short podcast. So we basically lost about everyone in this episode. And instead we'll just be adding in a bunch of video updates from all of our friends. So I'm your host, Karen Steger. I am the softball, gymnastics, and sometimes swim beat writer and Olympic sports manager at Rock M Nation. And let's go to my right. Tell us who you are, what you cover, and how was your Thanksgiving break?
I'm Quentin Corpuel. I cover football, men's basketball, and some women's basketball for rockmnation.com. My Thanksgiving was nice. I was back home in Maryland for about a day, and then we went up to visit some family in Connecticut. I will say Drew Lock got the Giants family excited a couple of times on Thursday. That was pretty cool. Unfortunately, the good feelings did not last for very long. And I'm not sure how many more batches of good feelings will be served up this season for the New York Giants, but for a couple of brief moments, it was fun. But yeah, Thanksgiving was good. We got to walk around Connecticut a little bit. My aunt and uncle, they live now in East Haven, so they're about 15 minutes away from New Haven. So I got to see Yale for the first time. That was a cool experience. Very, very pretty campus, very prestigious. It looked like, in a good way, it had been standing for hundreds of years, which it has. And the town of New Haven, I liked it. So yeah, good Thanksgiving break. Glad to be back in the swing of things for Mizzou. Big basketball game on Sunday. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, and now that football is almost wrapping up, we'll have more time for women's basketball. Which takes us to the one down there at the bottom of the screen. Hello, sir.
Hello. I am solo today. My roommate, Matthew Gustafson, is on the road for Mizzou Volleyball. Hear from him later, but I'm Dylan Heinrich. I am taking the rest of Mizzou women's basketball as my primary winter beats. Outside of it, I take soccer in the fall and then pretty much just hang around in the spring. So got a bunch of women's basketball updates. I got to go home for basically a whole week back to Colorado. So got the chance to watch the 2 women's basketball games in Florida, write about those. But other than that,
bless you for paying for Flow Hoops.
Yes, it was an experience for sure watching them play in a high school gym in front of like 50 people. So
totally worth that $29.99 price tag.
Yeah. But got to do nothing in the best possible way for about a week was pretty nice. So now back in the full swing of things, got a couple games before we finally hit winter break in full. So
now, do you guys have actual finals?
Yes.
I'm very lucky. I've only got like 2, but yes.
Yeah, I've got final projects and final exams. So I think after Wednesday, I will be unburdened by academics until January.
Nice.
Putting the student and student journalist these next 2 weeks.
Best wishes on your
Thank you.
Finishing your semester and while also covering Mizzou Sports. So, you guys are the women's basketball people. Let's just hop into the women's basketball talk. So let's start with Mizzou's recent stretch of games and then move into maybe what you learned at Tiger Talk in its new location, Dylan.
Yeah, I can touch on the Thanksgiving games, and then Q was grateful enough to help me out for the Jacksonville State game this past Sunday. So go to Destin, Florida for the Emerald Coast Classic. Split a pair of games. You lose the first one by 23 to Syracuse, a team that was struggling heading into this matchup. In that game, really was just Syracuse was making shots. Mizzou was missing theirs, could not quite find separation for any of their top players. And then on the opposite end, Syracuse was just able to find gaps in Mizzou's defense and took full advantage of it. It was the first Power 5 team that Mizzou had seen all year and didn't quite live up to the expectations that you would see from a Mizzou team in that first test. So really just a frustrating loss for a team that seemed to have turned a corner the first couple of weeks, but luckily we're able to flush that against Wichita State, found some turnaround there, just controlled that game in all the best ways that you want to see against an inferior opponent. You're winning the glass battle. You're winning the foul battle inside, just continuously just outclassing your opponent in a sense. So nice little bounce back there from Emerald Coast. You would have liked to see them win that first day, advance to the championship, but this is still a team that's figuring out an identity. Little sneak peek of Tiger Talk. Coach P talked about it. There's a team that has a lot of scores and a lot of first options previously with players like Nia Wilson and Lania Randall, who were the go-to player on their teams, now learning to play more of that support role here in these later games. So it's still kind of a learning curve, but if your learning curve is still sitting at 7-3, there are worse spots to be in.
I do have a question about Syracuse. So I just listened to the radio part of the game because I was not paying for that. Sorry, Mizzou, not doing that. Are they kind of more the style of opponent we should expect to see once SEC play comes around, like bigger, stronger, faster people than their current competition?
I would say so, yeah. You could see where more so Vermont and Norfolk State were just slow them down, grind the game to a halt, just limit Mizzou's chances over and over. Syracuse wasn't afraid to run with them. They definitely matched them athletically better than some of those smaller teams. Syracuse, obviously, Power 5, New York area, you're going to get some pretty nice athletes. So that's what you saw. Mizzou has been pretty good about winning the rebounding battle against smaller teams. This game was pretty even throughout, turnovers, rebounds. The real difference was just shooting, and Mizzou could not really buy a bucket or buy a stop for the majority of this game. So not terribly discouraged by the physicality-wise with this team. It was really just a case of what can this team do to gain separation on one end and limit it on the other.
Was Syracuse, was that the one who had Donovan McNabb's daughter on the team?
Yes, she was.
They kept talking about it on the Brad Trinago kept talking about it on the broadcast, and I was like, wait, I know that name.
She played a pretty inconsequential role, 3 points in the day, but shout out Lexi McNabb. But yeah,
that's pretty cool.
A very well-rounded Syracuse team, no doubt about it.
Heard her dad was okay at Syracuse when he played there for football.
All right. And then I know Dylan had a test, so he was not at the Jacksonville State game, but Quentin was there. Quentin, what can you tell us about that game and who you met?
Oh yeah. So the game went about as expected. Mizzou 79, Jacksonville State 45. The scoring effort was pretty balanced. Mizzou had 4 players in double figures, including Lania Randall, who dropped her third double-double of the season with 15 points and 10 rebounds. She just absorbs contact so well, especially on offense. It's a tricky thing to figure out, especially in college, when your game is still going through a lot of growth. And oftentimes that growth involves pain. They should make a term combining those two words. But on a serious note, she has been exceptional in the paint. Robin Pinchton called her the team's best defender a little while ago, and I would agree. And what Karen mentioned a few seconds ago, I actually got a chance to meet her dad and her younger sister, Navy, at the game. So I was able to talk with him for a while. Very nice guy. They came in from Wichita, Kansas, where Lanai is from. And so it was, I was happy to see and hear that they had been able to make the trip. And they will be back for more games. I can't remember if they're going to be at the SMU game. They're going to be at the Northern Illinois game. So hopefully I'll see them there this weekend, because that was a pleasant conversation I had. But some other takeaways from the game, I was curious to see what kind of role Abby Schreck would play. She scored her first basket about half a second upon checking into the game. It was a baseline out of bounds bucket, just easy catch and shoot from the short corner. And I was curious if it was going to be another one of those nights like she had against Western Illinois, where she would hit 8 threes. She only ended up scoring about 12 points, but it was good to see her get back on track shooting the ball, especially as she had shot, I believe, she had missed 14 of her last 15 3-pointers.
Really?
Entering the game against Jacksonville State. And so it was good to see her have a slightly more consistent game. Although she did just shoot 4 threes, she made 2 of them, which is a pretty solid percentage, albeit on low volume. And then Grace Slaughter had 15 points. Ashton Judd had 12 points. I'd like to see her be more of a consistent option in the second half of games. She's had a lot of really good first halves, especially dating back to last season. Now I think one area of growth that hopefully she can crack for conference play is being able to carry the success over into the second half, because she's had too many of those, I think, probably for her liking and the team's liking. Mm-hmm. She is not super effective scoring the ball. And like we've talked about many times before here on Majority Rules, she can impact the game in other ways. So she's not a complete zero out there. If she's not scoring, she's an awesome rebounder, a great defender. If my memory serves me correctly, she took multiple charges against Jacksonville State.
Very Haley Frank of her.
Yeah, very Haley Frank of her. I was wondering if anybody was gonna take that torch, and Ashton Judd's been doing a pretty good job this season. Those were not her only 2 or maybe even more charges against Jacksonville State. So positive performance all around. They were plus 12, I believe, in rebounding, plus 5 in turnovers. They recorded 9 steals. They turned over a Jacksonville State team that hadn't really turned the ball over that much over its first few games. And they also did a really good job of defending the 3-pointer. JSU shot, I believe, just 6 of 25 from the 3-point line. And they were fresh off of shooting 20 of 49 from 3 in their last game against Sewanee. Which, look, I understand it's a lower division opponent, but shooting 20 of 49 from 3 at the collegiate level is pretty insane.
Right.
So they did a pretty good job of defending the 3-pointer. I mean, heck, like I mentioned this in my game story, Jacksonville State they missed 15 of its first 16 3-pointers. They just hit a few in the fourth quarter that padded their stats a little bit. But they made Jacksonville's strengths weaknesses in a way, and they did more than enough on offense to be able to walk out of Mizzou Arena with win number 7. And so I'm curious to see if they're able to carry that over into Thursday. Well, I guess
tomorrow.
SMU in the
late night hoops. I think it's an 8 o'clock start.
Which I'm sure the ACC is gonna want a little vengeance on the women's side after the men's side has gotten dominated so far.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. First of all, that men's game was bonkers. And so is SMU also new to the ACC? So what we get like the brand new teams to the conference for our matchups? Conference realignment's weird, guys.
I've been Karen, I was actually telling people on our way back from Texas A&M for the football game, we actually drove past SMU and there was a banner on the outskirts of campus that we passed that said, "This is ACC country."
No, this is not on the Atlantic coast.
Yeah, I've personally never thought of Dallas, Texas as ACC. I guess that's the world we live in now.
So weird. So weird. So, yeah, SMU, the next opponent. What do we know about them? Either of you?
Yeah, I guess I'll take this part. So SMU they struggled last year when they were a part of the American Conference, now having to make a jump to the ACC, which not only are they a power conference, but a very well-rounded women's basketball power conference. Definitely probably going to be some early growing pains. They're a team like Mizzou. They lost an early game to Old Dominion, which is that less than ideal to lose to. I believe they're a Sun Belt team now, conference realignment. Lost to Arizona State, Minnesota, so 0-2 against Power 5 opponents. Both these teams definitely looking for a statement win in this challenge, which, again, it's going to be a lot of eyeballs, linear national television. This is a team that still has some really solid pieces. One that sticks out the most is guard Nia Robertson, a transfer from George Washington, played in the A-10. So she's just been lighting up the scoreboard this year, hasn't scored she scored double digits in every single game, has cracked 25 points on 4 separate occasions, including a season high 29 twice. So she's someone that can absolutely light it up, is going to shoot it at high volume. So for Nia Robertson, you aren't going to be able to slow her down a lot. She scored a lot even in some of the losses later this year. The key is kind of limiting everybody around her, force her to kind of be a one-woman army and don't let the other options get open threes, limit what the damage that this SMU offense can do, and really try and burn them on the opposite end with all the options you have: Grace Slaughter, Lanai Randall, Ashton Judd, etc.
Sounds good. Quentin, do you have anything to add about SMU?
Nothing specifically about SMU, but one thing I'm curious to see tomorrow is what kind of minutes and what kind of impact that Tilda Sjokvist.
I think she pronounced it Sjokvist. Like Sjokvist.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't terribly far off.
It took me like 20
Tilda.
times.
Just go Tilda.
Well, they call her Tilly, which I think is pretty cool.
I love that. Oh, shit. Like, I was like, Tilly, Jeremiah Tillman was like my favorite Tiger. So I loved it. I love there's now a girl Tilly.
Yeah, you have another Tilly in your life. Well, last game, Tilly in 21 minutes didn't score, but had 3 rebounds, 6 assists, a pair of blocks, and just 1 turnover. And both Hannah Linthicum and Ashton Judd, after the Jacksonville State game, just raved about her.
That's awesome.
Not just her on-court abilities, but her leadership as well, which is, naturally hard to do as a transfer. Like Eli Drinkwitz has talked about her on the football side, specifically with
What's
something
that? We don't talk about that here.
What if it relates to a point about Olympic sports? Is that fine?
I'll allow it.
Okay. Well, he was talking about with Zion Young, also a transfer, also a first-year player here at Mizzou. It's naturally difficult to establish yourself as a leader immediately just because you're new, especially on a team where a lot of people had been there for a while and were already set in stone vocal leaders. But it seems like Tilly, even though this is her first season as a transfer from Presbyterian, she's established herself as just that. She is a very good quarterback on offense. It's very clear that she knows where everyone is at all times. And not only that, she is able to get the ball to open people from the beginning of the shot clock to the very end. I believe she had a late clock assist to, I want to say Angie Ngala Kalandi. I think I could be wrong, but the shot clock was winding down. She had the ball between the left wing and the top of the key. And she is not super sure of herself scoring the basketball yet. I think that's a part of her game that can get unlocked. But I think the general feeling was, Tilly, you got to do something yourself. No one's open. Sure enough, with a couple seconds left on the shot clock, I think Ngala Kalandi springs free for a split second. Tilly, boom, hits her wide open for a layup. Nice. It's just that next level playmaking that is a huge help for Mizzou on offense, especially when half court possessions get stuck. She is able to find open people, even when straights appear to be dire. So I'm curious to see what her impact is going to be, not just Thursday, but I guess for the rest of the season, because playmaking, especially with the amount of scores that Mizzou does have, that's going to be especially valuable. I mean, even on the fast break, Coach P said before the season that they want to be a team that gets out and runs. They want to get in transition a lot. And they have somebody like Nia Wilson, for example, who does love to run and she loves to get out and transition. But I would argue that Tilly's probably the best passer on the team. And that really, really shines in transition. And so I really appreciate the way she plays, mostly because that's kind of how I made my money when I played basketball. At least offensively, I wasn't a great scorer, but I tried my best to be intelligent and find open people. And especially when you have somebody who's as good as Grace Slaughter, as good as Ashton Judd or Lanaya Randall at scoring themselves, having somebody to set them up is pretty key. And Tilly definitely provides that.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Dylan, I know that you just came from Tiger Talk, which is now at Harpo's for the rest of basketball season. What, if anything, did you have to take away from your experience there?
Yeah, Tiger Talk, for those who don't know, they just sit down with the coach of the week pretty much, and most of it's fun, lighthearted talk. Sometimes they'll occasionally get into some game speak, and maybe you learn a thing or two, but for the most part, it's a lot of lighthearted fun. Turns out Abby Schreck, her mother is a huge fan of The Wizard of Oz and has like a shrine in her home, which is something I didn't know I needed to know, but I'm glad I learned it.
That is fun.
I mean, it was a lot of real coach speak. I shared the one little nugget about everyone being a scorer. I think the other one, I know you saw this, Karen, is Mariah Vincent is one of the freshmen that we haven't seen. I got a chance to write about her back in May. Still one of my favorite pieces I've written, but
besides the very good.
Thank you. So she's been battling with a knee injury. Coach P got a chance to talk about her and compared her to former player Amber Smith, who was well before my time, but in the way that she can kind of defend multiple positions, is a real 3-level scorer, which Mizzou has a lot of very talented people who are scoring the ball, but outside of really Grace Slaughter and at times Ashton Judd, you rarely see someone who can do really well inside in the mid-range and from deep. So I think that's something that whenever Mariah or Mo gets healthy, I think that's something that she can add, because we've already seen London Vincent come in and be productive in spurts. But again, according to recruiting rankings and everything like that, Mariah was supposed to be even more productive as a freshman. So if she gets a chance to get in, especially when we get closer to SEC play, could be a really important spark off the bench, assuming she gets healthy soon.
Is there any sort of timetable on that? It's an injury that she suffered when she was still in high school, right?
Yeah, it was back in February, they said. So I would be shocked if she's out the whole year, unless it's by design, just to make sure you're keeping everybody safe. But I mean, she's looked healthier and healthier. I believe I've been seeing her in the brace less and less. So if I'm no expert, but I would not be surprised to see her back by the beginning of the new year in SEC play. That would be my unproven, unfact-checked opinion.
I like it. Thank you for offering that. Anything else from Tiger Talk?
Nothing else. I will say Harpo's, they got a really nice atrium. They got some lights strung up for the holiday season. It's very pretty to walk into. So it was a good hour spent hanging around, I will say.
Nice ambiance.
Exactly.
Okay. Maybe I'll check it out one of these times. We'll see. We'll see how the rest of the schedule goes. We are obviously, by the fact that there are only 3 of us here, having a hard time getting everyone together. So, we'll see. I will be at the game tomorrow, as will both of you, right?
I will be there.
I'm TBD. I have several final projects to turn in on time, so I might need to prioritize academics tomorrow.
What's that?
There will be a Rock M presence no matter what.
Okay. Good.
Okay. I'm anxious to use since I missed Sunday's game. Which it turns out I wouldn't have been able to go anyway because my garage door was stopped working and my car was being held hostage inside of my detached garage. I found out on Monday morning when I tried to go to work and I couldn't open my garage. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. I had to Uber to work and then YouTube some videos to figure out how to get it open so I could have my car back.
Karen, that's like last season, DeAndre Ayton, who plays for the Portland Trailblazers, got iced in his house and was out for a game because of it.
It was crazy. Well, it was kind of funny because I was already running late. So I was like texting my coworker and I was like, I'm going to be like 10 minutes late. I was going to be later than that. And then I walk out to my garage and I'm like, so I'm going to be, I don't know when I'm going to be there. I was like, I can't actually get into my car. Good times. Love the winter. Yay. So let me mark the time down here. So next in our show will be Abigail's update. She's like busy doing NASA stuff now. She's a big NASA girl. With her burgeoning Stratcom career. So she will have an update here, and then we were going to do something fun where I was going to plaster Matthew's picture on the screen and then play his audio file, but he is going to actually have a video for us, so he took away that fun thing. Something to think about in the future. Try to find, Dylan, maybe you can help find an embarrassing picture of your roommate that we can plaster on the screen to use in case he's gone at a later date.
My suggestion was going to be like a Matthew puppet.
That would be cool. I like that idea. And then we also, since Rory's not here, she's out semi-formaling it. She will also have a video update from Swim and Dive from the UGA invite, which I was watching on my phone for live updates, and holy best times. So many. It was actually insane how many that there were. So, and we'll have an update from Matthew for wrestling.
My name is Abigail, and I'm the cross-country and track and field reporter. If you're wondering why I'm wearing holiday lights, it's because Christmas came early for me. With Missouri's brand new banked indoor track, the track and field program can now host indoor meets for the first time since 2020. Coach Halter announced their schedule early in November, and he announced 5 indoor meets that I get to go scout, so I'm super excited about that. That's basically the only update in the track and field world, except for SEC triple jump champion Euphenie Andre has been posting in her Missouri gear. It seems like she's returning for another season, maybe with another championship on her mind. That's all I've got. Stay tuned for next week. Bye!
Welcome in. I am outside of a Whataburger in Pryor, Oklahoma. Matthew Gustafson here. Why Pryor, Oklahoma, you may ask? Mizzou Volleyball NCAA tournament bound for their second straight season under Dawn Sullivan. They're going to be in Dallas in Moody Coliseum, hosted by SMU. The first round matchup on Thursday is going to be against the Texas State Bobcats, the champions out of the Sun Belt. One key stat to know for Texas State: the Bobcats are currently 0-5 against RPI top 50 opponents. Now, the potential second round matchup we're looking at is the 2 seed, the SMU Mustangs, one of the top teams in the country, one of the top teams out of the ACC, but it's a very inconsistent team. They've beaten the top 2 seeds in the country, Pitt, Nebraska. They have also lost to teams like Hawaii, as well as NC State, who the Tigers swept earlier this season in Omaha. Taking a look at the last week for the Tigers, they end up losing to Kentucky. That is a 3-1 match against the Wildcats. End up taking the third set, 25-23. They lose the first two, 25-19, 25-14. and they end up losing a heartbreaker in set 4, 25-20. They end up giving up a 7-0 run to close out that fourth set. Jordan Island, the highlight of that match, with a over 300 hitting percentage. The other match ending on a high note. Auburn, they end up sweeping the other Tigers in Columbia on Saturday, 3-0, 25-18, 25-19, and 25-16. The offense was humming, hitting 406, limiting Auburn to a 189 hitting percentage. And this was a very encouraging sign for the team. Some struggles late in the year. They lose 3-4 heading into that Auburn matchup, and then a dominant win. Offense was clicking at all the cylinders, like I said. Michael Vernon, Jordan Island, tying each with 14 kills. Reagan 8th, Colleen Finney, the middles, very efficient as well. And Melina Crownover having a really solid match. Looking at the SEC awards were announced. 3 Tigers, Maya Sands, Jordan Island, Michael Vernon, all making the SEC first team. Only team in the SEC with 3 players on that team. Vernon as well, named Newcomer of the Year. And for the second consecutive year, Maya Sands being named Libero of the Year in the SEC. Finally, Melina Crownover ends up being named second team All-SEC. So moving it back to this week, you have matchup Thursday at 4 p.m. against Texas State, and a likely matchup Friday night, 7 p.m. against SMU. Something to keep in mind, this team's best win this season came at a Lone Star State in Austin against the 2-time defending national champions Texas. Will they be able to rekindle that magic? We'll find out.
Hello everybody, and welcome to, I know, the part that you've all been waiting for, the swim segment. So let's get right into it. About a week and a half ago-ish, the men's swim and dive team, as well as the women, went to Georgia for the Georgia Invitational. Now, there were about 8 teams there, but not everybody swam. So we had Florida, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Missouri, South Carolina, Wisconsin, and Georgia Southern. Now those last 3 teams, that South Carolina, Wisconsin, Georgia Southern, they only competed in women's diving. So you'll look at the standing and see Missouri women took 5th out of 8, but technically they took 5th out of 5th, with those last 3 teams only competing in diving. Now, the men's team, similar, 5th out of 5th. The men finished with 524 points. The women finished with 492.5. Rounding out those top 4 for the men, it was Florida, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and those same 4, same order for the women as well. Florida, there's a reason their swim team breeds Olympic athletes, guys, and is full of Olympic athletes because they absolutely crushed this competition, at least doubling the scores of the Missouri teams. But again, what's kind of been a constant with this team in general is how you're seeing that they're not making their way up as a team in the standings. I'm sure last place finish is not what they wanted when they entered this Georgia Invitational. However, the times are continuing to improve individually for so many of these athletes, which is something head coach Gravers has talked about in interviews with me and press conferences in general. He's just happy about the direction that the team is going, because individually they're setting personal bests, records. Jan Zubik continues to somehow to make his 100 fly faster. He's now sitting in at 45.99. You had 4 or 5 other swimmers get personal bests in the 100 fly on the men's side, and then you had about 10 personal bests for the women in the 100 fly, and that's just one of the examples. Jan Zubik, 200 fly, another personal best. You look at the freestyle, tons and tons. Karen is nice enough that she shared a sheet with us with personal best times updated with the UGA invite, and the entire sheet is yellow, which is showing these improvements, 50 free both sides, at least 10 in each event. You have Zara Zalen, I do apologize, I'm not always great with last names. Her 48.58 time in the 100 free at the Invitational is now 6th all time for the University of Missouri in that event. Grant Paczynski continues to just dominate in those 50 free and 100 free events. Diving as well, they took part in platform, which they hadn't done yet this season, so that was huge for them. In diving, the Tigers landed 6 athletes in the top 10, which is huge for that program. You kind of see Derek Colbert earned his first career podium finish with that 2nd place performance. And then you just had career best just across the board for them. When you look at the swim team, they advanced 24 swimmers to the finals on Friday. But looking at everything with this team, I'm just so focused on the personal bests that they continue to set week in and week out. That's not easy to do, especially when so many people say Missouri has the fast pool. So right out the gate in that inter-squad meet, you saw a lot of personal bests, and it was, okay, well, they're swimming against each other. They're in tech suits. It's a fast pool. How is this going to translate for the rest of the season? And week in and week out, you see that they just continue to crush those doubts and show that they're not a team to be looked down upon in this conference. Did they finish that well in the mini SEC? No, they took 5th of 5, but that's not the whole conference, and they're going to come out with a vengeance when it's time for the actual SEC championships. But I mean, this team is just something to look out for. Again, Jan Zubek, 2nd bronze medal, had 2 bronze medals in the Invitational. Alex Oceanbine had a 4th place finish in the men's 200 breast. But the swim squad still has work to do. And they, depending on when you guys are viewing this podcast, it'll be December 4th through 7th. They will be at the Toyota US Open, which is a huge event for them. And then the diving squad, they will be the 7th through the 15th of December at the USA Diving Winter Nationals, which I believe is in Bloomington, Indiana. So a lot to look forward to with this team. I'm super excited. But yeah.
Troubles with Tiger-style Missouri wrestling. 1-3, their worst start since the 2009-2010 season. They end up dropping a 24-10 match in a unique location at Arrowhead High School in Heartland, Wisconsin. Heartland, Wisconsin, the hometown of Keegan O'Toole. Arrowhead High School, the alma mater of O'Toole, as well as the Ashford brothers. So they end up moving the match against Northern Iowa to Wisconsin to give him one last match in his former high school. The Tigers losing 24-10. Some of the highlights, Gage Walker, the freshman, showing a lot of promise. Wins 5-0. He's been getting some wins recently, picking up some steam against unranked opponents and proving himself as a likely big piece of this team's future. 133, Kane Moore ends up dropping a 5-2 decision to Corey Lamb. Moore's offense has not been clicking. That is a common issue with the front half of this lineup, which will continue to cover more. Had some injuries at the beginning of the year. Not quite sure if the issues there are more injury related or just struggles to get to his offense. 141, Cale Happel, number 6, takes down Josh Edmond in a 4-3 decision. Narrow decision there. Josh Edmond wrestling fairly well. Can't really get to his offense, though, against the top-ranked wrestler. 149, Logan Joffrey, also struggling on offense, but he finds a way to win over Adam Alley. A 2-1 decision. Progress there, Joffrey. Again, not getting that offense, but at least he finds a way to win. Not the case, though, at 157, Jay Conway ends up getting tech-fauled very quickly against number 6, Ryder Downey. Conway has faced a gauntlet of opponents so far this year and has not been able to take down many of those top opponents. 165, Cam Steed out with injury. One of 3 Tiger starters out alongside Noah Certain and Rocky Elam. Joel Milan ends up losing a full 2 decision to Jack Thompson. 174, Keegan O'Toole coming through like usual, 14-2 major decision. His opponent, Nick Fox, came out on the aggressor, but O'Toole quickly putting him away. 184, Parker Kenkheis, defending national champion, ends up getting the best, a familiar foe Mizzou wrestler Colton Hawks in a 17-4 major decision. 197, Hayden Sinclair, highly touted freshman coming off of a big win over Zach Donegal, the top 15 wrestler from Illinois. Can't get the same thing done. 9-5 decision. It was very close. He had a near takedown on the edge of the mat. Ends up being called out of bounds. It could have made a difference in that match. And finally, Lance Runyon of Northern Iowa getting the win over Sissel in a 7-1 decision. Netzel again, one of those guys who's faced a lot of high caliber opponents, hasn't necessarily had the best record against them. So, Mizzou coming up December 7th at the Cougar Clash in Edwardsville, hosted by SIUE. Something notable, Minnesota will be there as well. And then December 22nd, they have a bit of a gap before their next opponents. After the Cougar Clash, they end up going to Nashville for the collegiate duels. They're going to be facing Binghamton, Little Rock, and the powerhouse, number 1, defending national champs, Penn State. Trouble with Tiger style, issues with the offense, injuries. Those should be back soon. A positive sign. This team needs all the help it can get, and it needs its starters back soon.
Let's move on to real quick and then we'll be done. Some out-of-season sports updates. So I just have a couple of things here. So we are now less than a month removed from gymnastics season. That was very shrill. I'm sorry. I am so excited. Obviously, there is one more inter-squad meet to go. It is on December 18th. That's a Wednesday. At Hearns at 11:30 in the morning. I'm going to take a half day from work to attend because that is where Karen's priorities lie. We will get another glimpse of the amazing Helen Hu. And I think there should be a pretty sizable crowd because it's going to be another one of those CPS field trip days. So like they did for the women's basketball game before Thanksgiving, they're doing one before Christmas break too for Columbia Public Schools. So there should be a pretty loud contingent of screaming children on hand for the Tigers' last inter-squad meet. And then the last thing I thought that we could talk about, since we all are softball enthusiasts here, some surprising news came out over Thanksgiving weekend. Pitcher Lilly Whitten is transferring. Thank you to Dylan who pointed this out to me because I did not see it. You guys, I don't know. Chime in. I think it's weird.
Yeah, you don't see as many transfers in the fall period as much, especially for a spring sport, because you're already through the fall season and everything's kind of established. It's all a little funky, but it's not unheard of. There are definitely a bunch of other athletes who you've seen transfer in and out, but it's a little strange, and it throws another wrench in an already unpredictable bullpen when you're losing your ace. Obviously, things are going to be a little bit awry. Things are going to be a little bit touchy, but you have new faces with like Courtney Donahue, who's the transfer, incoming freshman. See if Natalie Touche takes a bigger role, in addition to your obvious 1 and 2 of Marissa McCann and Sierra Harrison. So there's a lot of questions about really the bullpen for this team and what happens once you get done with those 1 and those 2 starters on those weekends.
I mean, I had Lily like as pretty much the midweeker. Like that's she throws super hard. She's the hardest thrower on the team. She filled in pretty well, I felt like, last year in her first full season after being out the year before that with an injury. I really thought like that was going to be her spot. And then she could also be a part of the weekend rotation because I was talking, Brandon Haynes reached out to me today to ask about it too. And we're just concerned that there is just, because they only got Courtney Donahue in fall ball. We saw her every once in a while for one inning. That doesn't scream to me like she's going to be a midweek starter. So is it Natalie? Do we see JC Cruze like after pretty much riding the bench for every year that she's been at Mizzou? Does she suddenly play a bigger part? Like, I don't see it happening like this. This is, and with this schedule, like, y'all, I'm worried. I'm worried. Quinn, what do you think?
Well, the weird thing to me is that, I mean, you kind of already said it. She was, at least in our eyes, projected to have a pretty prominent role for a probably good SEC team. And oftentimes you just don't see players in that role on that kind of team go elsewhere. Most of the time you see with the people in the portal, they were just buried on the depth chart if they're at a really good school.
Like the pinch runners.
Yeah, exactly.
Play every once in a while outfielders.
Yeah, that's what makes those moves pretty surprising. And so I would imagine she's going to field a lot of high major offers, especially because, yeah, she did look pretty good in a slightly elevated role last season. And so especially with the loss of somebody like Lauren Krings, like you're going to have to rectify that somehow. And now that Whitten's gone, I fear a little bit that the pitching is going to take a bigger step back than we might have thought beforehand. And that's more speaking to how incredible Lauren Krings was versus what is still on the roster. I don't think I'll ever forget the do or die game against Omaha, where she went, I guess, not necessarily shot for shot, but pitch for pitch with another softball pitching titan in Cameron Meyer, who also had an iron arm that just never seemed to wear. And so it was already going to be hard to replace that. And I think Marissa McCann and Sierra Harrison are going to be good, like they were last season. It's just everything behind that I'm unsure of. Then again, rotations shorten, especially when the postseason comes around. So every season it kind of depends on whether you need him or not. But yeah, Lilly Whitten would have been nice to have for Mizzou, especially considering what she flashed. But obviously that is not going to be the case. And I hope she finds a better situation for her, because clearly something at Mizzou wasn't quite working out.
Yeah. Where is she from? Missouri?
I'm almost 100% sure she is. I've got the roster.
I was thinking so.
Yes.
I didn't remember.
I believe
for
she's
sure.
from St. Louis area. I think so. If that's where Tunis is. I can't say I'm familiar.
Okay. Yeah, I was just very surprised by it.
And the timing, I guess the timing is weird too.
Yeah.
You just don't see players enter the portal. What are we? 3 months from the season starting?
Pretty much 2, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, it did seem like during fall ball, the games that I was able to attend, and Dylan, I know that you can probably attest to this too, they were leaning heavily on Natalie Touche a lot. So it did kind of make me think that they're planning on her playing a bigger role. But I think Whitten was pitching a good 2 innings each of those games. Now, I know that I had talked about on previous episodes that her command seemed off to me. Like I didn't think that she was pitching particularly well, but also it's fall. Like, I also didn't think that Taylor Pinnell looked that sharp. So, what do I know? Also just fall ball. But yeah, with them not picking up with just the one pitcher in the portal and not having any freshmen, like, I'm just afraid they're going to run out of arms.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised if the conversation was really like, we're looking at both Natalie and Lilly for your midweek starters, and Larissa maybe saw something in Natalie that gave her the edge. Who knows? But
yeah,
definitely shortening the rotation this close to the season, rarely a good sign.
Yeah, so guess just something to keep an eye out for. So that's really about all from here. Please head over to Rock M Nation and support the work of so many student journalists, and we have some really amazing other writers as well. Last week we put out 40-something articles. You also can support us by subscribing to this podcast feed, leaving a 5-star review. I'd love to see some comments. One time I commented about myself. That's kind of sad. It'd be nice if someone would say some words that isn't someone that works for us. But that's just me. Also, please join our subscription service, rockm.plus. It's super cheap. It's only $5 a month. $5 a month. You can follow us on the Twitter, though I'm trying not to use it as much these days. I am at Karen Steger. Matthew, who's not here, is at M_Gustafson27. Dylan is at Dylan R. Heinrich. Quentin is at Quentin Corpuel. Rory is at Rory Whetstone7. And Abigail is at Abigail_clap with a K. You can also follow at least me and Dylan and Rock M Nation on the Blue Sky. Maybe Quentin will join us there at some point. Who knows?
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
I mean, the last few times that the Twitter/X has threatened to go under, it didn't. But maybe I'll make one just in case. Always good to have a contingency plan.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Hopefully next time there may be some more of us. We'll see. I don't even know when we're recording next. Gotta check that on the schedule. So go Mizzou Volleyball. What else is this week? Women's basketball, 2 games. Wrestling's at SIUE. Maybe they'll get a win. That'd sure be nice. Track and field kicks off their indoor season at Boston University. And then we have men's basketball versus that fake school to the west on Sunday. So, yay! MIC!
COU.
Thank you. Bye!
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.